Nitrogen in this stuff can become nitrous oxide, which is 296 times as powerful a global warming gas as carbon dioxide. So how difficult is it to be vegan? You can eat well if you put a bit of imagination into it and are ready to cook for yourself. I'm making a Moroccan tagine with butternut squash.
Here's the main course.
But what does the finest cook I know, Trish, think?
It's delicious.
Thank you very
Really
much.
flavorful, very aromatic.
And how about this? Bananas flambéed in rum.
It's global warming.
But before you vegans start feeling too smug, it should be said that animal manure isn't the only big agricultural source of nitrous oxide. The other is nitrogen fertiliser, the most commonly used artificial fertiliser on Earth.
We put fertiliser into the soil because that creates one of the building blocks of the proteins that we get in our food. So it's obviously very important to fertilise the soil. But because plants can only take up, they're quite inefficient in their uptake, a lot of it is left in the soil. And what happens to this nitrogen in the soil will depend very much on weather and climate. But some of it is converted to nitrous oxide.
This powerful global warming
Yes.
gas. Well, perhaps we should move back to animal-based fertilisers. If we were putting manure onto the soil, would that be better? Would that get rid of this nitrous oxide issue?
The point about fertilisers is applying the right amount. Too much of any kind of fertiliser will produce too much nitrous oxide at the end.
In fact, nitrous oxide is reckoned to be the most significant greenhouse gas produced by farming. This man, Ian Tolhurst, runs a small organic vegetable farm outside Reading. He doesn't use any fertiliser at all. He uses plants instead, what is known as green manure. They produce nitrous oxide too, but, says Ian, not very much.
This is a clover. This is a red clover, a form of red clover. This will fix nitrogen from the air, but also it puts organic...
Put the nitrogen into the soil?
Take it from the air, put it into the soil. It's really about generating fertility from within the farm itself and optimising what we have here. We're not talking about maximising yield, we're optimising yield.
Ian's also trying to cut his fossil fuel use. He supplies 400 families with organic veggie boxes, his customers help with delivery, and he tries to keep tractor time to a minimum. He uses just 4.5 litres of fuel per customer per year. But he warns if you replace tractors with horses, the costs would go through the roof. So how much would your veggie boxes cost if you got rid of fossil fuels, would you say?
We're looking at least 4 to 5 times more than they do now, so £45–50 each.
£45–50 just for the kind of basic
just for the
veggie
basic base for a family of 4 people for 1 week.
Yeah, it's a lot more expensive.
It's a lot more, yeah, certainly, yeah. You know, for some.
So you'd, in a way, be saying that is the real cost of the food that people are eating?
Absolutely, that is the real cost. That is the true cost. If we took the fossil fuel out, the true cost is at least 4 or 5 times more than it is now, and for some items probably a lot more.
But price isn't the only factor to consider on a vegetables-only diet.
Justin,
Yeah.
what's it like being a vegan boy?
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, you have to think a lot harder about what you eat. But I tell you what, I've saved quite a bit of money.
You lost a bit of weight as well.
Yeah, I think so. A little bit slimmer.
So you've lost a bit of weight, you saved a bit of money.
Yeah.
Any unpleasant side effects?
Yeah, a modest increase in gaseous emission. Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, fart a bit more. Yeah, you fart a bit more.
A bit more?
Yeah, a little bit more. In fact, I asked that expert on cows farting that I met, Jamie Newbold, about this, because I was worried about the methane consequences. He said, don't worry, even the most flatulent human being will only produce about half a litre of methane a day. I mean, I must admit, I'm probably up there on the half litre. But you know what I mean, it's a lot less than a cow, but yeah, a lot less than a cow.
Oh, God. Thank God this year is nearly over.
To my wife's relief, my month as a vegan is up. So has my animal-free diet done me any good?
We've lost
2
kilograms, 78.5. You're going to be surprised. The body fat percentage is now 15%, and you've lost 4%.
What does it say?
What's up, Doc?
Your total cholesterol came down from 5.5 to 3.4.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
But there are two types of cholesterol, a good one and a bad one. In my case, both have fallen dramatically, and that's not all.
The unfortunate thing that also happened is your hemoglobin came down from 14.9 to 13.9. That is still within the normal range, but it's at the bottom of the normal range.
And what does that mean? What does that
Well, that means you probably didn't get enough vitamin B12 and iron.
I must say, I feel fine, but it sounds like I need to broaden my diet.
Right, Tim, so while I'm eating my first piece of meat for 31 days, you tell me how much difference has taking meat out of my diet made to my carbon footprint?
It could have made a great deal if you kept it up for a year. Bear in mind, this meat is about 20 times as carbon intensive in terms of total greenhouse gases as vegetables are, for example. And if you look at your footprint here, about 30% of the carbon in your diet comes from meat and dairy.
So cutting meat and dairy out reduced it by a third. But that
remember,
doesn't include the nitrous oxide or the methane, does
this
it?
is just carbon in the energy side of the food chain. Take out the methane, the nitrous oxide. Rough rule of thumb, nobody knows this ground very well, but rough rule of thumb, you could double that. So we're talking about a potential 50 to 60% reduction in the carbon in your diet from a vegan diet.
That's huge.
Even so, I won't stay a vegan, although I do plan to eat less meat. But the rest of the world isn't going to. As incomes rise, meat is one of the first things people buy, and world consumption of the stuff is expected to double by 2050. That's a pretty worrying thought, and Ian, for one, has been making preparations. He built this out of trees blown down in storms. If the floods do come, he'll pack a couple of seed potatoes and be on his way.